For us, it's like, how do you create a system that's going to standardize what the expectation is? Because you can't meet expectations or let alone exceed them if you don't even know what the expectation is. And I think that was the biggest gap that we saw is we're growing. 2017, 18, 19, we're growing. We have all these new franchise locations coming into play. And we didn't have the infrastructure to support them with the standard of expectation of what we expect. So it was an opportunity for us to say, okay, hey, let's align on this, and really, what does it taste like, touch, smell, like the senses, use those for when you walk in the door, and it goes all the way down from the client experience and all the way up to, how you are coaching your team, how are you training your team, how are you giving feedback to your team, because it's not just about developing, the outputs, it's the inputs which will also get you the outputs.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms. Here's your host, Bryce Henson.
Hey, welcome back, my friends, to another incredible episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. And before I introduce today's guest, I want to give you a friendly reminder to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. Write us an amazing review on iTunes, and that way we can keep producing this content for you for free. So now to introduce today's guest back in the studio, my brother, Executive Director of Coaching and Profitability, and we're going to do a breakdown today of the elite trainings that we provide at Fit Body Bootcamp, and more importantly, how to level up your team and how to level up your leadership and your life. Barrett Henson, welcome back. Welcome back, friends, to another incredible episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast, and back in the studio with my brother, Executive Director of Coaching and Profitability, Barrett Henson. Welcome back, buddy.
It's good to be here, man. It's always good to be here.
Well, last time you're in the studio, we shot a fire episode about understanding yourself, understanding your team through DISC, but also through the tool Take Flight Learning, which really matches bird profiles with your DISC assessment, which creates an incredible amount of self-awareness, but ultimately creates better leadership so you can connect with your team at a better level. So if you haven't watched that episode, definitely want to link that and encourage you to watch that, because that's really foundational. It's something that we teach on this particular episode, which really today we're going to teach and really break down the elite trainings that we launched in 2019 within the Fit Body Bootcamp brand. And we're going to do a breakdown, like what they are, why we do them, what we learn through them, and also who presents and really the big takeaways. So before we do, though, I want to take a step back, and it's important to actually highlight our CAP team, or Coaching and Profitability. And Barrett, you're the Executive Director of Coaching and Profitability, or CAP for short, are you not?
Yes, I am. And man, I got to tell you, like when I look at the innovation, been an owner for 7+ years, right?
Since what year? 2015?
2015.
Yeah.
Signed the agreement in 14, and it takes a little while to open, right? And there's just been an incredible amount of innovation and getting better, like growth, right? And as I look across the board, the development of CAP has just created such alignment and an overall improved system, for the franchise. And it's just, taking a step back, I think like that was one of the biggest decisions that was made, the biggest investments within the franchise system, to be like, hey, listen, we see a void. How do we fix it? And that all started like elite, all the stuff. It was like that was the first domino.
Yep.
The Coaching and Profitability team, because we realized what better group of people to coach our franchise partners than franchise partners themselves, who have gone through the trials and tribulations and have really kind of built a rocket ship as we've been, flying to the moon, right?
And that was the big, aha that I had when I was talking with B, who's our founder, and then looking into your eyes. And I think it's really important that we understand that as business owners, your problems never end; they just change. So they go from third world problems, I don't have enough money for rent, to first world problems, I have a lot of people coming through the door. It's a little bit chaos now. How do I service all these clients? And it's the same with our franchise system. Fit Body Bootcamp was founded in 2020 by the vision of an incredible leader, visionary.
2012, right?
2012.
Yeah, not 20. Hey, it's all good.
Oh, forgive me. 2020, COVID's still in the brain, I guess.
Yeah,
2012, to be exact. And we went off to the races with incredible fashion in terms of growth, especially in the years of 2017, 18, 19, just exponential growth. And what we realized, and at this time, Barrett, you weren't part of HQ, but I turned to B at one point point, and realizing that, hey, we had a lot of people, a lot of seats at the table, but we need to really increase our infrastructure, coaching, and support of that. And to your point, I had this idea. It's like, who better to coach our fit body owners than the most successful fit body owners themselves? So we've aligned a stacked team of 6 CAP coaches for short. You were one of the first guys, or the first guy to get the call, and has now increased and risen through the organization as our executive director. So that's kind of high level. Is there anything else I'm missing in terms of coaching and profitability? And the reason I think it's important that we share this is to showcase the structure of our franchise, but ultimately what we're going to be talking about, the elite trainings, are put on, coached, created, evolved through CAP.
Yeah, man, I just think that like the level of going back to self-awareness and DISC, right? The level of self-awareness of the organization to see that, hey, we got a different problem here now. Mm-hmm. And then being like, hey, how do we solve the problem? And that's just leadership in general. You don't have to have the answer, but you have to know where to source the answer from. Mm-hmm. And I think, just having that foresight, both you and B, being able to say like, hey, listen, we might not have all the answers right now, but you know what? I know the group of people who does have the answers. And then let's get them in the room. Let's talk. Let's align, and let's make sure that we're creating the system that's going to be the most fluid in the highest probability of execution in the way as designed. And I think that is always, the art of the CAP team, because you get 6, owners who are very, high performing. I believe we all share the eagle, and we all love to we're not afraid of conflict.
Not afraid to throw our strong opinions around.
Yeah. So, it can be very, very, and from the outside lens, it might seem like a hostile discussion.
Especially if you're a dove, a fly in the wall, you think, holy hell, what is going on in those meetings?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the vision, and we've all aligned on the fact that this is for the betterment of the brand and the betterment of the clients. Because at the end of the day, like when we all break it down to the fundamental aspect of what we do is we serve. Mm-hmm. We're in the people business, we're in the feelings business, and we need to create a system that is going to create inspire fitness. And that is so important for us to align on, knowing that is the ultimate goal. And how do we create a system that's going to really fuel that, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And fuel the relationships, because we all know, exercise, health, wellness, and fitness is only a small portion physical. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of the what's happening in the 6 inches between your ears, and we have to create that platform that we are providing that guidance for clients, and ultimately, for our franchise partners, their coaches, their facility coordinators in themselves, because that's the type of culture we always want to cultivate.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, that lays the foundation of really the support group, better known as CAP, that is coaching our owners, our franchise partners on a day-to-day basis in the trenches, and working with them to increase their leadership, their support, their client results, and really their impact and income, as our vision is to increase evermore our global impact and our franchise partners' profitability. Now I want to kind of dive in and really unpack the elite training. So what are they? When are they? Why do they start? So I'll kind of jump in here. They started in 2019, which is our first elite training in suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina. And since then, we're approaching 15 trainings, and we're shooting this episode at the very end of 2022. In fact, we actually have by the time this drops, I've already completed our Orlando elite training, which is the last and final of the year. And then we have our roster we just aligned on for 2023, which is exciting. But why do we start it? And then, what is it? Can you kind of describe what elite training is?
Yeah, and elite training, and quite honestly, was right about the time when I was coming on board, and you and B had connected. Hey, we need to do a better job of providing systems and coaching and guidance, not just for the owner. And it's like, you use the analogy of the telephone game, mm-hmm. right? Like, we got a line of people, and I start by saying one thing, and all of a sudden it gets down to the end, and it sometimes is not even freaking close, but sometimes it's close but off. And dude, that's what happens in your business. That's why the importance of L10 meetings, getting everybody together, alignment. It's so critical.
And L10, for our viewers who are not familiar, stands for level 10. And it's we use the framework of EOS, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. An incredible resource on that is the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And there's a handful of books in the series. But to your point, I just want to provide a little clarity and context. L10s are really how we run our business. Every department has an L10. Incredible tool to be able to streamline communication and efficiency.
Yeah. And that's exactly like from an organization standpoint, you want to do that. So why shouldn't we be doing that from a franchise system? And that was just kind of the first step in innovation, is recognizing there's a break in the chain. And, that was right about the time. And I do remember, hey, Barrett, I got this idea. Do you want to come with me to Raleigh? And I was like, giddy up, let's go. Because, for me, and I look at my own business and my own location, and the one thing that I absolutely love doing is just like being a hope dealer, right? I freaking love it. I love delivering absolute fire sessions, and that's great. But how do you make sure that experience is cloned everywhere? And I always say this, like, if there's an incident or an accident, let's call it, and there's 10 people in the room, you're going to have 10 different written stories of what happened, because that's just their perception of how it is. So my perception of a great session and your perception of a great session, it's subjective. It's not objective, right? What are the things? Like, certainly there are certain recipes that are going to magnify something in either a good way or an opportunity to improve. But for us, it's like, how do you create a system that's going to standardize what the expectation is? Because you can't meet expectations, or let alone exceed them, if you don't even know what the expectation is. And I think that was the biggest gap that we saw, is we're growing. 2017, 18, 19, we're growing. We have all these new franchise locations coming into play. And we didn't have the infrastructure to support them with the standard of expectation of what we expect. So it was an opportunity for us to say, okay, hey, let's align on this, and really, what does it taste like, touch, smell, like the senses, use those for when you walk in the door, and it goes all the way down from the client experience and all the way up to, how you are coaching your team, how are you training your team, how are you giving feedback to your team, because it's not just about developing the outputs, it's the inputs which will also get you the outputs. And, as Nick Saban says, you trust the process. But for us, the problem was we didn't even have the process put together in that way. So huge opportunity for us to really put this together and then educate and then aggregate feedback from the attendees there. What resonated and what can we do more of that's going to give you more guidance, and having that understanding of, you were doing a lot of great things, but, aggregating feedback from the franchise partners of, what else do you need help on? So it's a give and a take.
And actually, in terms of evolution, that's how we've actually bettered the training over the now nearly 15 trainings that we've done is, we create a strong culture of feedback, and we're able to ask our participants, okay, what went well and what opportunities would you recommend to improve? And we've done that in incredible fashion, and we've built an amazing training, and it just continues to get better. So I want to break that down actually and go through a little bit of the nuts and bolts. One thing though I did want to add, and to your point, the infrastructure nearly wasn't there where it is today. But it's not just about the systems and the processes, because we've added now our Fit Body Academy, which is a learning management system. We have, weekly marketing calls, weekly cap calls. There's a lot of access and support, but one of the biggest values that I've seen, the feedback that we've seen, is these elite trainings, they're in the field. We're going out to different locations. We're out in North America, from, Florida to North Carolina to Texas to California to Calgary, Canada. We've made our rounds. And I think that's important, to be in the field, especially from the executive director of Profitability and the CEO like myself, because at the end of the day, we love this. It's a passion-based business, and from top down, we're there. And I think that says a lot, but also knowing that we're in the relationship business. And this is what we teach our franchise partners on a daily basis, especially coaches who are young and, they're green and, typically just out of college. We teach them a framework of FORWARD, which is family, occupation, recreation, dreams, using that analogy, from the famous car company. But relationships are the lifeblood of your business. They are really, in essence, what this business is about. And that's the same way, not only from the franchise partner, the owner at the location, to their team, to their clients, but that's the same here as our franchisor here at HQ, to our franchise partners, to our coaches, to our admins, to everyone in the organization. We are still in the relationship business.
100%. And I would even go a step further. Just like when you absorb like the feelings on the mats in a session, like oftentimes it's the clients who are encouraging each other, high fives and, building that community and the culture. It's even more magical to watch our coaches from different locations get together, idea share, and we're putting them in situations that creates innovation, that creates idea share, that like, hey, how do we level you up and how can you get peer-to-peer feedback, not just from us, which is great to have that relationship too. But I think that was actually probably, and we knew that going in, hey, we're going to develop stronger relationships with the coaches. I think the, collateral impact that we've had, which was unplanned, was just the magic and the culture of coach to coach and just building that community of feedback to each other. And it's awesome because some of my coaches who have gone, they still have, connections with other coaches throughout the brand. And I know vice versa. Like I look at, one of our owners in Athens, Georgia, Joey Stewart. I think he's been to all 12 of our elite training workshops, and he's always bringing his coaches, and his coaches have relationships with my coaches, with your coaches, and other coaches who are going because he's injected and given his team the platform for that idea share. And there's no shock to me and surprise to me why he's one of the most successful owners in the brand, because he's investing in the human capital game of his team.
Totally. Amen to that. All right. So I want to break this down. Before I do, the other question I had, and we'll provide visibly to our audience, is who runs these? So when we first started in 2019, Bedros, our founder, B, who's a co-host of this podcast, was in the circuit training one of the 3 days. And then you and I took the other 2 days. So it's a 3-day training that basically commences on a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday, full days. So certainly we're making a big investment from our franchise system to be there, and, from our franchise partners who invest the time, energy, and money in travel. So we want to make sure that we, exceed expectations, which is a core value of ours, and deliver the value. Typically speaking, our facility leaders, who are the top line leadership on the leadership team of any company, which includes, your director of finance, your head coach, your client coordinator, your integrator, and onward. The first 2 days of training are really designed for them. Although collectively, we're in the grand scheme of things a small team, and it's important that every single person knows the other roles of the business, because that's how we work together from a teamwork perspective. But really, the majority of content is focused around those particular roles. And the Saturday, which is our favorite day because we're coaches by nature, we love delivering fire-breathing sessions and training sessions, is really dedicated to our coaches and leveling them up. So that's the framework. And when we first started, again, you and I would attack the 2 days. B would basically teach one. And then as things have transitioned and changed, even through COVID, we were out in New York and the East Coast and the West Coast delivering these trainings within guidelines, and having to step around a lot of, I guess, proverbial landmines, if you will, to make sure that they happen, but they did. And then now, kind of present day, CJ, who we call seven-figure CJ, fire-breathing dragon, fire-breathing leader, owns
total parrot too, by the way.
Total
and
parrot.
Again, man, just like, it's just so great to have that energy.
So he owns 2 very successful Fit Body Bootcamp locations in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So really now you're the leader of the elite trainings, Barrett, especially since they're put together by Coaching and Profitability, which you lead. And then I teach a few, I guess, targeted, trainings throughout the course of the 3 days. So my role has evolved, but it's also, very important to me and impactful that I'm out there on the front lines in the trenches as well. So that's kind of the overview and who delivers the trainings. Let's kind of talk about the breakdown. So I have the agenda here, and really I want to, kind of highlight a few things and then really get your feedback, and if you can color in the details on some of the content that covered. So, day one, again, top line leadership. We do a kickoff with a welcome to elite. Typically I give that overview and whatnot. Then we go into recruiting, training, and hiring process, in addition to, conducting mock sessions. So really kind of what does that look like, and what are the main content? I mean, I just teed up a little bit on the front end, but really what does that day one look like from your lens?
Yeah, I mean, day one is all about laying the foundation for your team. You got to have a foundation for your team. You got to understand your team. And then we cap it off with some, one-on-one sales training. And just, as we've gone through, we've received, hey, this is what we need help with. And, in any business, and specifically ours, we are in the people business. We're in the relationship business and the feelings business. And that starts with our team. Like, you have to have good people on. So making sure that you're creating a system that only allows good people to make it through the interview process, because at the end of the day, if that coach is not bought into your core values and your team, even though they're the best technical X's and O's type person, it's not going to resonate with the clients on the floor. So ensuring that you protect that culture on the front end, and then not just, protect it, but then educate on how, we can take somebody who has, your core values, and as a good quote unquote person, you hire on that person, and then train them in the areas that they need development in. And I can tell you this, of all the coaches that I've hired in my time, about 25 coaches that I've brought on, there are only 2 who have had their NASM or National Academy of Sports Medicine CPT, Certified Personal Training Certificate, because I'm looking for the right person, because I'll make sure that they get certified. The exercise science, we can teach you, we can help provide that structure, but you got to find that right person and then develop that right person, which is really a big focus, because we're not only going to develop that person, show how we can create that system, but then develop them on certain things like sales, specifically on this day, as well as interaction, because going back to the birds discussion, it's not just the birds that they're going to go over, it's the application of how you're connecting with the other people on your team, because there's some exercises that we're going to put people in that they can have takeaways, do it with their other teammates. If not everybody's able to make that, and I know sometimes that's the case, but again, it builds off of the self-awareness, which builds off of team awareness, and trains up. And that's really a big focus on our first day.
Day one. So, into the team, we do sales training, which is the oxygen and lifeblood of your business. But one thing that I really want to kind of dive into, aside from the bird pairings, is really the new coaches onboarding training system. And one of the things you just said was you've only hired 2 coaches at your 25 since 2015 that's had that NASM to start. The rest of the coaches you brought on, you've trained the talent and taught them the exercise science, and of course the accreditations come. So from my lens, why this has been so important is we can now take someone who has passion, who has curiosity, who likes people, who has interest in becoming a fire-breathing dragon, as we refer to our coaches, and even without any experience, even without any technical knowledge, we run them through a 12-week system, and we can basically guide them and mentor them, so that way when they finish the 12 weeks, are they the best coach in the world? Probably not. However, are they an absolutely incredible force and really strong coach to be able to train our clients on a day-to-day basis? Absolutely. And that 12-week intensive course, I would argue, is way more valuable, way more insightful than probably most 4-year exercise science degrees.
I would agree. And I say this, and it's one of, to me, the most beautiful things that we've done is investing and doubling down on that. Because again, that's a human capital. That's investing in the person. And that's an intern. That 12 weeks is an internship program. And it does 2 things. Number one, it sets the standard of the client experience. This is an intern coach. They're developing. And we've all been interns. And I'm sure the audience listening to this, as an intern, your expectation isn't very high. Right. So it gives the coach such a long runway. Because I say this when I hire new coaches. And I say it very bluntly, and I say it with love. Hey, it's okay that you're going to suck, and you are going to suck, and that's sweet. I want you to. I want you to make mistakes. Have fun. All right? My job is to take your suck factor from here to here. So that 30 days from now, the people, when they walk in, they don't know if you've been with me for 3 years or 3 days. That's it, because you're so dialed in, and that's always my excitement. And in those 12 weeks, you're going to find that out. But it does require some human capital to make sure you're investing in their development, And we're going to talk about some of the other things, the exercise we go with feedback and watching film, which has completely changed the development process and really sped up, that individual's development process.
And one thing I want to jump in on that and is really the film aspect. So when they come in, they have a weekly mission. We give them a book. They have an assignment to meet with their head coach on a weekly basis. They get instructional videos, teaching education. We have reading assignments for them. And then as we progress them through that 12 weeks, and right about week 4 or 5, and you'll have more visibility since I'm a little bit out of the weeds now, then we basically get them on the mic and then start filming them.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll give you credit, Barrett. You brought this innovation to the table, and being a student of sports and being a college athlete in both baseball and football, and then loving professional sports and in college sports as well, cited Tom Brady, and you're like, okay, well, if Tom Brady, when he finishes on Sunday winning another Super Bowl or a conference championship or just a regular game, what's the first thing he does? Him and Bill Belichick, well, now I guess the coach of the Tampa Bay team, in addition to his whole team, will lock themselves up in their film room, and they will watch film, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most important, when you see yourself on film, it really shines a light on you. And actually, you still need to do this to be able to coach your team as a leader of the business, but it really provides a lot more bandwidth and freedom for that coach to actually understand themselves. And when they can come to the conclusion on themselves versus you telling them, they actually have a better self-awareness, and they can take action and adjust their coaching to better themselves. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, of course, in the structured process that we've created for self-actualization, self-realization. So that way that can coach within 12 weeks can really change the game.
Yeah. I mean, it just, to me, and it goes back to like subjectivity and objectivity of like what the definition of a good session is. Like film doesn't lie. It's totally objective. It's not going to give you any emotion. It's going to show you exactly what happened, from the angle that it's in. And
most times and I've been guilty of this as well. When I listen to a podcast or see myself on film, I'm like, that's how I actually came off, or that's how I sounded. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it is. And it's the reality of the situation. It's okay. It's an opportunity to get better. And I think, it goes back to the human capital. When you have that video and you're like, hey, you see what you did right there? Like, that's so awesome. Do more of that. Do more of that. Because oftentimes we don't even realize the things we naturally do so well. But you, as a coach of coaches, get to point it out and show them, oh my God, do more of this. Because that naturally plants the seed of that's what I expect in my session. That's a great way to streamline your expectations. And then similarly, when you take that same film and you're like, hey, did you see what you did right there? Hey, there's an opportunity that you can improve or make a better connection with that client. So instead of you being like, you need to do more of this, you need to do more form correction, it's like, no, this is where you need to do more of the form correction, because you had an opportunity to do it right here, but you might have missed the boat. And that's okay. Again, people make mistakes. It's totally fine. It's just about your ability to create a system or a structured process where you can identify the opportunities for improvement and give praise when you need to give praise, because that's just going to reinforce the good behaviors that you have. And again, this goes back to like, how do you level somebody up, and how do you take somebody and develop them? And to me, that has become the art of what I really, really love, is not only developing coaches, but developing coaches into leaders and leaders into owners and so on and so forth. Really, really cool. I mean, that's just because I friggin' love helping people who want to help themselves. Totally. That's why I love helping clients, And that's what we look for in franchise partners. So that basically gives like a foundation of day one. Again, sales training. And then we talked about the new coaches onboarding process, because it's so critical to success. And really what we're teaching is the leaders in the organization how to apply that to their coaches, which, follow up in, day 3 of the training, which is Coaches Day. So all that film, we get to have them watch it too, peer-to-peer.
Peer-to-peer.
Which makes it cool. We'll hit on that in day 3.
What's up, my friend? Bryce here. Now, you might know me as the co-host of this podcast and the CEO of FitBody. But what many people don't know is that I actually began my journey as a FitBody franchise owner. Now, being an owner, I wake up every day absolutely doing what I love. I live my passion. I help people transform their lives and have both financial and personal freedom. And it's for these reasons and many more that other owners join the brand and open their own FitBody locations too. So if you're looking to build a highly profitable business, take charge of your life, and create an impact in your very own community, then opening a FitBody gym might be a perfect fit for you. Now, to see if a territory is available in your area, as we have very limited spots due to our incredible growth, go ahead and visit our website at fbbcfranchise.com to complete an application. Well, thanks, and back to the show.
So day 2, now we, have laid the foundation. Now we talk about running an L-Town meeting, which is basically your level 10 meeting, which is a weekly cadence of accountability for your team, reviews and discipline, the importance of culture. We do have some more strategy session or sales role play, and then we finish out some hot seat coaching. But that morning is really the foundation of how to run your systems in the business, and ultimately how to execute team reviews and really work with your most important asset, which is your human capital.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big day on operations, and how do you refine your operations, your systems, your back end things, because those are super important to ensure that you're not missing things. People are getting a uniform experience, that sort of stuff. And the L10 meeting, is just so important that you get everyone on the team heading in the same direction. And I think that was, again, a big add as we began implementing EOS and the entrepreneurial operating system is helping provide the structure and the framework to get a lot of our franchise partners into regularly structured meetings. Because when you have that cadence of communication, your coaches know what to expect more. Like, you have more alignment on what you're doing, and your probability of hitting your goals, your rocks or your big objectives, increases exponentially. Yeah. And without that, you're kind of like flying blind, in my opinion, which is why we put such a focus on those sorts of things, as well as the discipline and help giving course correction. Because I think sometimes, just as an entrepreneur, especially when, we were getting started, you're kind of out on an island, and I think the most amazing thing about, our franchise system is the connection between owners to owner, as well as now the development of CAP, and you look at where we're headed with these trainings, and we continue to get better. It provides more opportunity to just cast visibility on yourself, on maybe certain things you're doing in your business, and opportunities that you can really, okay, man, I really need to get better at this aspect, maybe in discipline reviews. I really got to get on a regular monthly cadence with these coaches so I can help just provide them better visibility. And it just exposes some gaps that maybe you haven't thought of, because you might have that feeling like you are on the island and you have to figure out everything yourself. But hey, support's there.
To put a bow on day 2, one thing that you really said that spoke to me was that peer-to-peer connection. And one of the things that we do on day 1 as well for the sales training, but also day 2, is basically break them up in groups and have them role play from a sales perspective, but also too, and even in day 3 from a coaching perspective, be able to give feedback. And that role playing, that peer-to-peer interaction, no one likes to do it up front. Whenever we cast the vision and we're kind of lay down the training, everyone's like, you got to be kidding me. No, I don't really want to role play. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. It's clunky, which it is. But every single time after we execute the feedback session at the very end, because really we spend 15 minutes and say, all right, friends, what went well? And then what's the opportunity to improve? Hands down, everyone's like, I didn't want to do the role play, but I am so glad I did, because now I feel empowered. And really that's the name of the game there. The last thing I want to point out, which is an innovation that we brought to the table with the feedback, was hot seat coaching. Yeah. And one of the questions or the inquiries in the feedback after we're wrapping every single elite training was, we would love to hear from you, CJ, who's our 7-figure CJ and leader in the group. We'd love to hear from you, Barrett, and we'd love to hear from you, Bryce, on just some questions that we have that that give insight to your journey, or specific coaching questions, or anything that we can open up from a Rolodex perspective to add value. And that's one thing I didn't foresee, but really we've acted on the feedback. And probably one of the biggest takeaways that our participants have said they've really, really enjoyed is that hot seat coaching that we do at the very end of day 2.
Yeah, it's something. And when people initially start, and I always joke around, because the first question is always the loudest crickets. Nobody wants to be that first one, but as soon as that one question comes out, and as we've done it now, it's, you never know what that question's going to be. All of a sudden the hands start going up. Hey, I want to ask this question, and that just starts to flow. So yeah, going back to the uncomfortability part with role playing, it's always the thing. Nobody wants to be that first. No one wants to be embarrassed or go out and take that first step. But as soon as it starts happening, oh man, it's like freaking magic. And I think the other thing that kind of, again, going back to the idea share and meeting coaches from different places, is oftentimes it's hardest to give feedback to the people closest to you, because you don't want to hurt their feelings. But, and you use this analogy really well. Deep down, we all crave feedback. We all do, and the analogy you use is, hey, could you imagine being at a dinner party for 2 hours, you're having a great time, and all of a sudden you go to the bathroom real quick and you look and you see a big hunk of lettuce in your teeth, and not a single person at the table has told you. It's like, what the heck? Just tell me, right? Because nobody at that dinner party who's all your friends, they don't want to hurt your feelings. But when sometimes you have an outside lens, objective.
Hey, you got something in your teeth. Thank God.
I mean, it's the same thing with coaching, right? It's the same thing with role playing that we're doing, because afterwards, it's not just the role play aspect. It's, hey, what did you notice? Where could you have cleaned something up? And these are two people who are doing those tasks, who have gone through, have put reps in, and they can idea share, number one, and then optimize their own flow, which again, just helps us all get better across the board.
Amen. All right, well, let's put a bow on day 3 to give our audience some just, insight to the value that we provide and the innovations that we we've taken action against. And really day 3 is where the magic happens, which is coaching, because really at the foundational level, fundamental building block of who we are is we deliver coaching both from a fitness perspective, a mindset perspective, from a nutrition perspective. And really day 3 is coaching day. And this is Barrett, where you shine. Certainly CJ shines as well. I usually kick it off with an opening message to set the framework. And a lot of times, even though the event is invited to, or the invitation is to all the team, depending on operations and logistics, we have a big influx of coaches coming in for that day. So I typically like to kind of give them a strong mindset message, some words of wisdom that will help them on their coaching journey. And then you jump in with CJ talking about the fundamentals, about the feedback culture we just hit, how to run a world-class training session. So really the practical technical application is the foundation of the morning. And then we break for lunch. We typically always create community and have some assignments, because that's really important that they bond, the idea share together. When I say they, meaning the group participants. And then really the latter half of the day is they all bring feedback, or they all bring their training sessions on their phones, at least a pre-recorded one. One volunteer we showcase, and basically one brave person to the group, and the group gives feedback, what they did well, and then opportunities to improve. And then we break them up, so they're paired up with their peer, and then each of them get the opportunity to watch each other's session, which typically is the first, 7 minutes of the example, which is the demonstration, the explanation of the training session, which they've recorded in real time at their own studio. They're bringing it in on their phone during the workshop, so that way they can participate and really provide feedback to their peer, and their peer provides feedback to them. And that has been so eye-opening to the point that you just laid out. And then we finish up, with the science of programming and really kind of teach programming. And we have an incredible tool that helps with that called the Workout Builder. But it's important, for every coach to understand the X's and O's in programming. And I think this is where you really shine. So that's the high level, and the big value in the takeaway is when you bring coaches together, the energy is just off the charts. And of course, we like to think that we bring it in return as well to kind of set the tone. But that energy is contagious. The learning is contagious. The peer networking is contagious. And doing these for 15 times and going now, the feedback has been incredible. And just like we encourage our franchise partners to create a culture of feedback, we take our own medicine, and that's how we've evolved the training. And people ask us, are the trainings the exact same? No, they're not. They're similar, but I would say 80% are the same. And then we always evolve and innovate from elite training to elite training to continue to stay ahead of the curve and really add continuous value. And because of that, they've been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Coach's Day is just magical. And this is not a knock to the first 2 days. First 2 days, super important, a lot of value that comes out. Coach's Day, it's just magical. A few more people, a little bit more excitement. There's so many things that we go into, which I think are so important, from the fundamentals, to really outlining what it looks like to develop or put on a world-class training session, which I think is, so important. And then, feedback and a lot of other things, obviously the programming and that sort of stuff. But it comes down to the ability and the willingness for somebody to get outside of their comfort zone a little bit, because we all suffer from the curse of knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know something so well. And coaches, like when you look at exercise science, they traditionally know it so well that oftentimes they bridge the gap automatically where a client might not. They don't understand why you're doing this pairing or why you're doing a strength, workout today, why you have a Metcon workout, tomorrow, and how it goes from an upper push to a lower pull or vice versa, and this just creates a platform, number one, to, really identify those things and opportunities to create peaks in clients' lives. Mm-hmm. Because as you look at it, day 3 is all about the product. The product is our workout. Like when you really look at it, the experience, not just the workout, but the experience of the workout. And for me, it is the most important thing that you need to always reevaluate, because it is a dynamic thing. The same workout that I programmed today that we're going to do at 5:10 in the morning is going to be the same workout that we do at 6:30 p.m. But the only difference is you had 8 iterations to go throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And all 8 of them are not the same because they're very dynamic, but you can improve here or there. And as you're going through, sometimes, when you have an outside lens to talk about or go between each other, especially throughout the day, you're going to even innovate. Oh, this is where I can create a peak, So it's us trying to identify those opportunities where our coaches throughout, Fit Body Bootcamp are not just resting on the laurel. We're intentionally creating a peak in our clients' lives so that even though we're only 2% of your day, 30-minute workouts, 2% of your day, but we're impacting their life for the other 98%. And that is just this day to me is the platform to improve the overall client experience and the client journey that someone's going to have within your location. And, that's why I get so fired up, because the energy that coaches can bring and, the attention to detail that the coaches can bring can change a person's life for the other 98% of their day just by something so small that they did. And, sometimes it's just why do you spend so much time crafting this or really focusing on maybe this small detail? Because big doors swing on little hinges. And to me, we're going to break it down. We're going to make sure that we are looking at every opportunity to create peaks, because I say this, and this is one of the slides that I hit on, when it comes to just coaches, and I want them to think about it, is I'm like, hey, why don't you think back to your high school career? And for the audience at home, I want you to think about it too. Really, really think about it. What are some of your favorite memories? And, people start, and I, go around. And then it's great. Well, you realize that you were spending over about 1,400 days in your high school career, and the only highlights that came up were about 5 or 6 in your life. Well, that's the same thing that happens within a session. That's the same thing that happens within your day. So many things are going to happen, but the curse of knowledge, or the curse of just repetitive action that you do, you kind of just push that to the periphery. But if you're intentionally thinking about opportunities to create peaks in clients' lives, you will create those peaks, and those will be so strong that you create that emotional connection, the feeling that is just going to catapult somebody for the rest of their day. You do that day after day after day, and you chase excellence.
Absolutely. Well, to put a bow on this, Barrett, I want to lead our audience as we've, kind of did a deep dive elite training. We broke it down. We've showed the value, showed the backstory and the continuous innovation. I'm curious from your perspective, and I want to kind of tee this up, but really are the biggest values and, takeaways for our audience and our soon-to-be franchise partners, of the elite training. But I want to give you the opportunity before I do, just to talk about, the recent partnership or innovation, I should say, with our longstanding partner, National Academy of Sports Medicine, and specifically to the CEUs, now that, every coach that comes to our elite trainings can receive. So can you tee that up a little bit and give some insight?
Man, that it's actually something that just kind of organically happened just by connecting with our partner, NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, great people. And, we're always looking at ways to level up just the experience, right? You got to get better, innovate or die, right? And so for us, it's hey, how can we provide more value to our franchise partners, to our coaches, and how can we educate them better? And in the process, we found an opportunity to become a CEU provider, which went through an application process, to make sure that we're submitting the content that we're going to be teaching all throughout. And National Academy of Sports Medicine came back and said, beautiful, we're going to give you 1.9 CEUs, which is essentially all the CEUs in a 2-year window to keep your accreditation as a certified personal trainer. The only one that you have to get, which you have to get anyway, CPR and first aid, which you want to get anyway, because it's great to have refreshers on those too.
So the big value for me and for us and our brand, I believe, is now we can be able to advertise and connect and really pour into our owners. And really, it's our owner's job and our coach's job to get certified, and then we'll keep them certified. Is really the name of the game.
We will, and we'll continue to innovate the training. And every year, we'll go through the application process, say, hey, here are the innovations that we're making, and and we expect it to be in a similar ballpark of the same CEUs. But our commitment is to always provide education and provide the guidance, because for us, if we're not innovating, if we are not improving our system, well, we're staying flat, and that's it's not where I'm going to be putting my hat on it anytime soon.
No, sir.
Innovate, baby.
No, sir. All right, to finish this off here, I want to get your kind of final thoughts on the biggest breakthroughs and really value adds to our franchise partners. For me, it's about the connection. It's about being in the field. It's about continuous education. It's about living our core value of exceeding expectations. It's about being in the trenches, being vulnerable, and being willing to put yourself on the line, to continue to better yourself. And that's the value, that's the mindset that we look for, in our coaches and our facility leaders and our head coaches. And that's what we provide. And I think for us, here at HQ, with the partnership with you, Barrett, and CJ, and our whole CAP team, as we continue to evolve, I think that's the biggest value, because we are, even though we've come so far in a short period of time, even navigating through COVID, by the time we, launch these trainings, we are just scratching the surface. And I tell our franchise partners, we are just getting started. So that's my big value takeaway. I would love yours before we wrap.
Man, all the things you said for obvious reasons, and agree. Collaboration so important. Feedback so important, and just the repetition. Those are the biggest things that I look at. And when you do those things, like you're just arming yourself with tools that are going to make you better, it's the saying about reading the books. Like, it's not about reading a million books. It's about reading, a certain amount of books, rereading them, because there's so many books that I've reread, multiple times. And I'm like, oh my God, was that in the book? Like
it was just in a different spot at the time.
I was in a different spot, it's no man steps into the same river twice, for he's not the same man, and that is not the same river. And that's the same thing. And as you go through these trainings, you're like, oh my God, that's an area that I need to improve on, because more often than not, it is literally the fundamentals of your business that you need to stay attention. Put attention towards, the experience, your client experience, your follow-up and your engagement.
And that's not sexy advice, but actually that's the advice that's going to move the needle, going to make you more profitable, to allow you and your family and your team to live a life on purpose, is mastering the boring stuff, the fundamentals. And when you do that, that's bliss.
Oh yeah, freaking great. And it's just like, it does fire me up, because again, going back to the curse of knowledge, sometimes you think, oh, I got it, but it's like, no. Go watch yourself on film. And if you're willing to do that, and I think, that's why when I go back and I watch a lot of our owners who bring back, coaches who have been through it before, they get even more value the second time than they did the first time, because they're more bought in, they're more willing to be there, and, willing to get vulnerable, get raw, get real, because they want to develop themselves. And that's, again, goes back to the magic and collaboration. Just so special to be a part of,
Absolutely, my brother. Well, listen, on that note, we've concluded with the content that I want to share today, and I know our audience has gotten a lot of value from that. Last time I had you on the podcast when you're out here, I didn't ask this question, so I want to finish off this, and I know this has been kind of a quasi interview, but more of a riff, just you and I kind of dialoguing. But since you are in the hot seat, Brother Barrett, and this is the Fitness CEO podcast, I'm curious, from your lens, what does it mean to be a fitness CEO, not only of your business, but also of your life?
Man, that's a great question. I freaking love it. Leadership is you can be on an island sometimes, and it kind of feels lonely, it's tough. It can be trying, because you're making the right decision for the organization. It's not necessarily about, the who, it's about the do, and you have to make the right decision for the business, and that can be really tough. And really, I think for you, it's what's most important. What's most important in your business, for that fact, as well as what's most important in your life, and in my business, like when I look at my own, location, what's most important to me is how our clients feel, how the team makes them feel. So when I look at it, that's always my focus. Like, hey, can we do a better job of connecting with clients? Because if we can bridge the gap on feeling, like, that's going to help them live a better life. And if they live a better life and we're helping them, like, we're going to feel better about it too. They're going to be more fit. They're going to have that exponential impact on their family, their work, like so many different ways. And feelings, they're contagious. They're contagious based on the environment that you're in. And the thing about feeling, and the thing about, how those clients feel, like, the next session, it's new. The next day, it's new. So you always have to have that attention. So for me, I always put the focus on feeling in the relationship with the client, that we're really, really, exceeding their expectation, not only from, the workout standpoint, but the client connection. You hit on this forward, like understanding their forward, because that's going to help really move the needle. And the same thing goes of your own life. It can be lonely. It can, you can be on an island there too. But if you know what's important to you, like that's what you're going to prioritize first. And I always say this, like no one is going to come and save you on a white horse. No one will. And if it's up to me, or if it's going to be, it's up to me. And I think that's something that I hope the listeners always kind of think about. Like no matter what aspect of your life, like you can control what you can control, and you should focus on that. And if you really, really want to go get something, go get it. Don't stop. That's it.
Well, we're going to drop the mic on that. That's a perfect ending and segue. Barrett, my friend, my brother, my business partner, I appreciate you being in the studio. Incredible shoot for today. And, friends, I know you got a ton of value, assuming you did. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, write us an awesome review, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. We'd love to continue to engage. Barrett, my friend, we'll see you next time, and we'll see you in the next episode.